Yipee-Ki-Yay, Mr. Falcon.
Howdy ho. Welcome to another episode of Yipee-Ki-Yay, Mr. Falcon. Getting light with it today. I've got Tom back again, and we're going to be talking about comedy sequels. And not so much as like running down our favorites or the shitty ones versus the good ones or anything like that, but kind of digging into why it's so hard for Hollywood, and has been so hard for pretty much the existence of feature films to make good sequels to comedies. Making good comedies is pretty hard to begin with, especially ones that stand the test of time and can be watched decades later and still be funny. That's like really hard. But then making another one after a hugely successful comedy, even a dated one, it's almost impossible. There's really very, very few examples of good comedy sequels, and we get into that a little bit. What's going on, Tom? How you doing, bud?
I'm fantastic.
What have you been watching lately?
Oh, God. What have I been watching? I started watching just today. I put on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Ah, the first one. All
right.
The
first one. Yeah, I don't know why. I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who with my wife, and... You know, we were big Doctor Who fans and then kind of fell off. And there's a new Doctor, and I'm way behind. I'm still in the Peter Capaldi seasons, so I don't know how familiar you are with Doctor Who.
I don't speak Doctor Who at all. I'm sorry. I have no clue what you people are talking about.
Yeah,
I respect it and all. I from what I understand, it's a thing.
But you know, it just made me remember that there was another duo of people that used to flit around time and space in a phone booth, and
but it was an American phone booth.
Yeah, it was
not one
righteous.
of those fucking red things.
What one of those red things? You mean, dude? It's Doctor Who, man. It's a blue police box. Okay. Now I know you don't speak Doctor Who. Come on,
no, dude. I have never seen an episode, not one.
Dave, I'll say this. They're really good, but I'm firmly convinced you would hate it.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. I've been told I don't have enough whimsy.
No, you're falling far short in whimsy.
My wife tells me I have no whimsy. There's a lot of things I don't like because of my lack of whimsy, and I'm fine with that. Because those things usually make me really fucking angry.
It's
like
what makes
Wes Anderson movies.
It's what makes you, man. Doctor Who is not for you.
Like, I remember a guy in college dragged me to see the fucking Life Aquatic when it came out, and I wanted to fucking kill him.
I think I saw that. Theater. I saw that with you, I think.
Weezer Mike. It was.
No.
Mike.
No, I saw that. I didn't see that with him. But yeah,
I definitely went with Weezer Mike.
I also didn't like that movie.
I'd never seen a Wes Anderson movie before. I'd never seen that fucking other one, Bottle Rocket or whatever the fuck, and that other one people goddamn worshipped, and the Royal goddamn Tannenbaums. Oh my God, so many fucking jerk offs in college used to have that on their shelf.
Yo, I'm up and down on Wes Anderson. I like some of his stuff. Life Aquatic is a hard spot to jump in.
Yeah, I guess, because I mean, I thought Bill Murray, like, I was like, okay. I mean, there's Glocks. That's neat, but
there was a Glock.
There were Glock. No, fuck that. But speaking of comedies, I just got done watching Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, the Legend of Dewey Cox, whatever the fuck it's called. Fucking great movie, man.
Hilarious.
What a great movie. I love that movie. And it got me thinking, and it got us thinking, you know, comedies have been a big part of our entire life watching movies. And we really got lucky, I think. We came in for like two golden ages of comedy at least. Comedy movies from other decades, like they don't, I don't know, man. Like they couldn't do much. They couldn't say much. They weren't that funny. Like, I mean, there's some comedy greats that are, they still kind of hold up but can you really honestly laugh at a comedy from the 60s?
Well, give me an example.
I don't know, dude. Like, you putting me on the spot. Comedy from the
sorry.
fucking 60s. I don't know. The Odd Couple. Like, can you watch The Odd Couple and laugh at it?
Well,
you know?
yeah, I know what you mean, but like again, that movie's not for us. We didn't grow up in that time or with those
Right.
sensibilities. But yeah, I agree that it's also, you can make a case that they're just not as free and ridiculous as the stuff that we had access to.
And like the 70s had comedies, but they were often very racist or at least they were extremely sexist.
Oh, like
Not the
Porky's.
Yeah, I was going to say the first Porky's is definitely from the 70s, right?
Yeah.
I know there are multiple sequels, but yeah, that's a great example. Not to say the 80s didn't have their share, like Ski School and those kind of movies. But man, there's some comedies from the 80s that still they still hold up. Like The Burbs is just one kind of classic. Like The Great Outdoors. That'll never not be funny.
Dude, I had both of those movies on the same tape.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think you've told me this before. Okay.
The Burbs and The
That's-
Great Outdoors were on one long play VHS that my dad taped off of HBO. It was epic.
Those are two fantastic movies. Ghostbusters is from the 80s, right? And that brings up a good point. And this is kind of like what I want to get to. Why is it so hard to make a good comedy sequel?
Interesting question.
Like, there are some. Like, there's a few out there. But it's a handful compared to how many bad ones have been made. And a lot of bad ones have been made in recent memory because, we went through a renaissance of comedy. What I guess you'd say in the early aughts when Apatow started doing his thing, and there's been a lot. There's been a lot released, and when that happens, you get derivatives. You get copycats. You get all kinds of shit, but you also get studios trying to cash in on movies that were surprise hits, like. Prime example, I guess, is The Hangover.
Yeah.
That was right in the thick of it was one of the at the peak of that era of comedy. And that's a funny fucking movie. I love that movie. I have fond memories of that movie. My wife and I were on our honeymoon when we saw that the first time.
Oh, really? Where were you?
We rented it in our hotel in Vermont. And laughed our asses off, and it was great.
Yeah, they caught lightning in a bottle. That movie had it was a lot of raunch. It was just like raunchy, like verboten humor that wouldn't fly today. You had a tight cast, that were played really well together. Bradley Cooper was great,
but there were a lot of fresh faces. Like, to me, the whole cast was kind of new. I didn't know Galifianakis from anything. I think
I knew Galifianakis from his stand-up. I had already seen him in.
I had never heard of the guy. I had seen Bradley Cooper in like Wedding Crashers. Had no idea it was the same dude.
Yeah, because the hair.
he looked completely different, and he trimmed down, like he had the hair, the stubble, looking all handsome and shit in Hangover, and he looked like a like a waspy doucher in Wedding Crashers. I had no clue it was the same guy because he acted so different too.
The man has range.
Man has range. What's his name? The dentist. Fucking, I'm
Ed
gonna
Helms.
fuck it up. Ed Helms. I didn't watch The Office. I'm one of those weirdos that didn't watch The Office till later.
I too am
I've
one of
seen it.
those weirdos.
Okay, I'm not obsessed with it. It's not a comfort show for me. I watched it way later. It's fine. Whatever.
It's great.
Yeah, I hate the British one, but whatever. But I didn't know him from Adam either, so it was so cool. Like this whole fresh cast of dudes that were so fucking funny in a movie that was so fucking funny. I never even thought they would try to make a sequel to it. And then the sequels they decided to make.
Yeah.
They made 2. There's 3 of those fucking movies. They do Vegas, and like that was very much, the first one is very much a Vegas movie. I mean, the whole thing is in Vegas. They filmed it all in Vegas. The plot is all centered about being in fucking Vegas. It's great, right?
Yeah.
You'd think they would try to do it in another, like, I don't know, an American city. Like, they go all the way to Bangkok.
Yeah.
It was
silly. Well, you know what? You know
Yeah.
why? Because like it did. Here's my gripe with the first Hangover. It gave
Okay.
rise. It gave rise to a person in Hollywood or moviedom who I cannot stand. And like he was in one thing before this in a much smaller role, but it was like the first like ridiculous role you saw Ken Jeong in. And
Oh, you don't like Ken Jeong?
I can't stand Ken Jeong. He drives me insane. And so Hangover was a smash hit. They wrote in a part for Ken Jeong to be ridiculous.
Yeah, he was part of that Apatow universe. He was in Knocked Up, and
yeah.
yeah,
That was his first thing, was Knocked Up. And then they saw that they had lightning in a bottle with Hangover. They had Zach Galifianakis, who's like the engine for that movie. He drives that movie because he's ridiculous.
He's the hard comic relief. Yeah, they're all funny, but yeah, he's the goofiest one, the most off
and he's
kilter one.
fucking hilarious too.
Yeah, he's great. He was great in the first one.
And then there's Ken Jeong, who's just silly enough that like people chuckled at it, and like a lot of people, don't remember him from Knocked Up. Like he was in it, but they don't remember him. They remember all the Seth Rogen stuff. But then he was like over the top in The Hangover, and he drove an entire sequel, and that drove me
true.
nuts. That
You're
whole
right.
thing
You're
was like an
The
engine for a vehicle for Ken Jeong.
The first movie really did well at using him just enough in that first film.
He had 2 scenes.
That was it? Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
man. He pops out of the trunk, and then
and one of them he was naked. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and then he like goes to like rough him up later, and like, oh my god, when they grab Zach Galifianakis' bag, and he goes, "Hey, there's Skittles in there."
Fucking funny.
It's so
I just love when he
stupid.
hops out and he's got that merkin on, and he has no
God.
penis. There's no penis, and he's swinging around the crowbars. You want to fuck on me? And
I fucking you.
and just the way he leaps out of the fucking trunk and just starts beating on it. I'm laughing thinking about it, but
Sure,
yeah,
that situation's funny.
Like you see the.
So
Yeah,
they
like,
took
what is
that moment.
impulse?
They took
like,
that moment with like Leslie Chow, I think his name was, and
Yeah,
they stretched it into 2 more fucking movies.
Yeah, that was a weird way to go because also that forced them to keep using plots that were like about crime, and they got seedier and seedier. Like the third one is almost like an action movie, a weird tonally action movie with like a few jokes in places. Like it wasn't even really a comedy. It's such a strange route to take it after the first one, such a strange aspect to focus on. Like I just would have, for a sequel, I just would have like wanted to see one where one of the guys other than like Doug gets to be with the group and one of the other ones gets lost. or something. There was a lot of things they could have changed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think like action can be funny. You know what? Comedy had a ton of action, and also had Ken Jeong in it, and I loved it. Was Pineapple Express.
Yeah. Well, that was also made to be kind of a.
I mean, there was the first.
These comedy jerk-offs want to make an action movie.
You could sum it up with that one statement. But but this is The Hangover 2, and you've seen The Hangover 1, and it's about guys that get so fucked up they can't remember anything. But then it turns into
you have to repeat
crazy
that
goofy
trope.
action movie.
Like, I don't know who the fuck it was who told me this, but somebody smart, I think, once told me that a sequel just has to be the same but different. Like, that's what the audience wants. They want the same but different, and figuring out what to make different and how different is usually what determines the success of a sequel. Now, there's exceptions, of course. Like Godfather 2 is kind of just the continuation of a longer story because that was all in the original novel anyway. They cut it short to only, so people could physically fucking watch it in one movie. That's different. That's an outlier.
If you
right?
stuck those two movies back to back, they would function as one long story.
Yeah, and Coppola's edited them together so that they are one long story. If the second one wasn't told out of sequence, it would be completely linear. So that doesn't really count. So, but comedy sequels are different because you have to really identify what the audience loved, because a comedy in the video age is very different, because it's one thing for a movie to make you laugh the first time you see it, when you're in a room full of people in a theater who are all laughing at the same time. Like, you could go to a pretty shitty comedy, and if the audience is mildly into it and people are in a good mood and everyone's chuckling, you're going to laugh more than if you saw that fucking thing alone.
Yeah.
Right? And your mood actually has a lot to do with it. And I realized this recently, and I'm going to get back to this when we talk about a sequel to another amazing comedy. When you see a comedy for the first time, at least I've found, the mood I'm in colors my opinion much more than it does if I saw a drama or any other kind of film, really. Especially a straight comedy, just like a straight up comedy. And I've had movies where I've been in a shitty mood and the movie was not nearly good enough to get me out of a bad mood. And I just wrote it off, Right. And then maybe a long time later, after I forgot all about everything I saw, I'll watch it again when I'm in a normal mood, and I realize this is actually pretty fucking funny,
I had that very experience with one comedy in particular. Want to know what it was?
Yeah.
Dewey Cox.
Oh, right. Yeah, you didn't like it the first time
I saw
around,
Dewey
right?
Cox the first time and hated it, and then I watched it again in a much different place, and I could not stop laughing. Oh my God, that movie's so good. But
I think it only stands to reason because, you watch the same movie at different times in your life, and you react differently to them. Movies you might have hated in high school, you watch them again, and all of a sudden, because you have life experience now, you're in a different place in your head.
it changes your perspective.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm...
Here's an interesting point, though, about comedy and trying to make a sequel, right? You think about, boil a comedy itself down to, what it is in its essence. And I think it's you could say this. Comedy, what is comedy? Comedy is subverting your expectations, right?
Right.
You got, someone's telling a joke.
Spontaneity.
Yeah, someone's telling a joke or a story, or there's a setup, a bit, a scenario in a movie, and then a thing happens that you don't expect, and that's funny, right? And that's how great comedies are born. So then you take a medium where it's about subverting expectations, and you try to make a sequel, which inherently brings along with it expectations of what it's supposed to be like. And I think that could be why it's so hard to get it right.
Yeah. And also, I think to make a good comedy, I'm not an actor, and I haven't been on movie
I'm
sets,
not an
right?
acting doctor.
Right, yeah, no, I'm not.
I'm not a film doctor.
But you have to think that on a film set for a comedy that really works, the cast has to click. You know, they have to have really good chemistry together on and off camera to make each other laugh, to be funny, right? Well, you do that when all the actors are in a particular place in their career and what have you, and everything works and everything clicks. And then you try to do the same thing again 2 or 3 years later with the same actors. It might not work because they're different people at this point. You know, they've had ups and downs. They might have been gone through divorces, had kids. You know, all kinds of shit can happen in 3 years. Not to mention the fact that the first movie's successful. Now they have all this pressure to live up to what they fucking were doing when they were just fucking goofing around making a comedy. Well, not goofing around. It's hard work, but you know what I mean. Being spontaneous, which is funny. You know, it's harder to do that when you have the pressure leaning down of like, oh, it's Hangover 2. This better be as funny as the fucking first one or people are going to freak the fuck out. And it's never going to be as funny as the first one. I mean, that's impossible expectation. What good, what comedy sequel is there that's actually as good as the original?
I was just going to ask you if you can even think of one comedy sequel that's better than the first, or even
I have
even as good.
I have a very, very short list of comedy sequels that are even good. And the only one I could even think comes close to that is Back to the Future 2. But the original Back to the Future is such a classic, you can't even say that.
Well, is Back to the Future a comedy?
I was going to say that's not what I would call a straight comedy.
If you asked me
that's
to
a science
name a bunch
fiction
of
action comedy,
yeah.
right?
If you were to ask me to name a bunch of comedies, I don't know that one, like my favorite comedies, I don't know that series would make my list just because it's kind of, not that they're not great movies, but I don't know if they fall in that bucket.
All right.
At the forefront of my mind.
I tried really fucking hard to come up with a list of good comedy sequels, and it's a short list. Let me just run it down for you real quick.
Run it down.
All right. Naked Gun 2.5.
Hilarious.
Naked Gun 33 1/3.
Funny.
Okay. Back to the Future 2 and 3, just with the asterisk that we just talked about.
Awesome.
Next Friday and Friday After Next.
I'm not as familiar with those movies as you are, but yeah, they're pretty good.
Next Friday is the weakest entry. Friday After Next, they made a Christmas movie, which was fucking genius. I watch it every year. I love that movie. And the original Friday, me and my boys used to watch it on a bootleg version that was filmed in a fucking theater, which is the best way to watch that movie. I'd love to recreate that someday somehow.
I watched that at your house
that tape
a couple months ago.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, I forgot about that. We were drinking a little bit.
I remember.
We were drinking a little bit. That's fun, though. All right, so Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Funny.
Not Beverly Hills Cop 3. That's not on this list. Meet the Fockers.
Yeah, that movie's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's up there. Like, that one is on. I think that is as good as Meet the Parents, I have to say, because they added Dustin Hoffman and Barbra Streisand, and they were funny as shit. And they added all kinds of new stuff that was funny. The kid, like, all that stuff was really funny. The fake titty, like Robert De Niro wearing a fake breastfeeding boob. I mean, come on, that shit's fucking funny.
I have nipples, Greg.
Right?
Can you milk me?
Yeah, and they get tased, and that was a funny movie, you know.
Yeah,
but then
great.
Of course it was followed by Little Fockers, which was terrible. All right, so that counts. Maybe that's the one. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yeah, that was funny. That was
good, right? I know Bill and Ted Face the Music is people have mixed feelings about it.
I haven't seen that yet.
No,
I gotta watch that.
Well, that'll be interesting because I don't know if people remember this, but we had this pandemic thing where we were all locked inside for months. I know we all try to pretend it didn't happen, but it really did. That movie came out, was one of the few movies that came out during all that. And just getting something new at the time was really cool. And it's a very sappy movie. But it was kind of like exactly what my wife and I needed at the time. So I have a fondness for it because of like when I saw it, like we were just talking about.
Yeah, the mood you're in. And if that mood is lonely, it's just like isolated.
Or like, if you're really kind of, everything is kind of dark and grim, like saccharin sometimes is kind of good medicine, where at other times you would turn your nose up at it and it would just make your teeth hurt, right? But I'm interested to see then what you would think of it, not watching it in the same context, and later now. So that's cool. Well, that future project.
No, I realized.
I have Clerks 2 and 3 on here. I know a lot of people didn't like Clerks 3, but I thought it was an interesting way to go, and I liked it.
I never saw Clerks 3.
Clerks 2 is pretty fucking funny, man. It's very different from the original, of course,
yes.
But it's a funny movie. My wife nominated Addams Family Values, and I agree. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's the one where they're with Dave Krumholtz when he was a kid, and Wednesdays at the Wednesday and Pugsley are at that weird summer camp, and they end up putting on that Thanksgiving Day play, I guess, because you do that, and then they set everything on fire, and it's fucking awesome. And then the last one I had is Wayne's World 2.
Yeah, Wayne's World 2 is great.
I don't know if it was great, but I mean, it had Jim Morrison. Had Jim Morrison, a half naked Indian guy. That was pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
No, it was pretty funny. It had Chris Farley, the fucking the British guy, the roadie. He was great. Yeah, all right, it was great. Lenny, I'm sorry.
Come on.
I told my wife before that it wasn't that good, but I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
I mean, listen, comedy is completely subjective.
That too. That's the other thing. It's more subjective, I think, than any genre. Like you can see like a hardcore drama, like a serious film, and be like, that is an excellent film for this reason, this reason, this reason. I'm never going to watch it again because it's just not my thing. It's not my...
Right.
But if you see a comedy you don't like, you fucking hate it usually.
Well, you know what's an interesting example of that, too, is like you can watch a comedian do a special and they slay. The whole room's into it. And then they can do the same jokes, the same delivery, because those guys are polished, man. I don't know if people know this. Like you watch a stand-up comic that's got like a special on Netflix. Those sets are so consistent. Those guys are very good performers. They'll do that set in a different city with a different room.
Yeah, they have it down to the minute. It's timed,
Yeah, even like the following night, close by, and it bombs. And it's all like like the crowd might be different, the mood might be different, even if just the vibe is slightly off.
Comic might be in a different mood.
Yeah, I mean, even if the comic is in the same mood, you could have like an identical performance.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, and like it'll bomb. And like, who can say why? Who can say what did it? But I think that kind of goes to the point that it's so subjective.
Huh. All right. Well, that in hand, I want to talk about a movie with what I thought was a bad sequel, and I think I might have changed my mind on it a little bit.
Oh.
I love Anchorman so much.
Oh, God. Yeah, the first Anchor... Dude, like...
and this is another thing, too, that's why I bring up the first one, because there is something about a comedy that you can watch over and over again. Like we were just talking about how spontaneity is the essence of humor, kind of, right? Well, what is it when the joke's so cold that the tempo of every scene, and you work these lines of dialogue into your everyday conversation, and you've seen this movie that's supposed to be a comedy hundreds of times with all
Hundreds.
kinds of groups of people, all different groups of people.
It's funny you mentioned this one too, because I don't know. Dave and I used to share an apartment.
Yeah, briefly, but yeah.
Briefly, but like not just any apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment, which
It
is
was a weird sitch.
which is weird. There's a story there, maybe for another night. But I moved in to because someone else moved out. I moved into this apartment because Dave needed help with the rent, and I was like, who could pass up an opportunity to live with?
We just really didn't want to live
one
with
of
our
their
parents,
best friends.
man. We just
know?
really did not want to move it
And I said,
keep living with our
I
parents.
said 1 bedroom, and you're like, yeah, all right, shit, we'll make it work, right? And
Yeah, we said it would be like college rules, like dorm
Yeah.
rules.
yeah, hang a sock on the door if there's something going on.
The bedroom has a fucking door. There was a whole rest of an apartment.
Yep. So we used to, but like that was my introduction to Anchorman. It was when we were living in that apartment, and we both owned a copy of that DVD, and it was on constantly, right?
Yeah.
And you said something
We
about
watched it a lot.
knowing that dialogue cold. We had a rule. Like we were at the time, I used to smoke. I don't know if you notice. I don't do that no more. But
You mean cigarettes,
the
ladies
cigarettes,
and gentlemen.
yeah. I don't do that no more. So we had a rule: we didn't smoke in the bedroom.
Neither do I. I don't smoke anymore either.
Very, very
It took
proud
me
of you.
longer to quit, but I haven't smoked for years.
Tell me if you remember this. We had a rule that we didn't smoke in the bedroom. That was just a rule. Don't smoke in the bedroom.
because we didn't want to die that way. I'm pretty sure it was the logic. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was in a bad place. Like he moved in because my girlfriend broke up with me and left. Okay, well, not. There was more time than that. She left to go to grad school, which was it sounds it was weird. It was weirder than it sounds because grad school was only 15 minutes away. It was at the school that we both just graduated from. But she decided to stay for grad school, but for some reason that necessitated moving onto campus
Right.
because a 15 credit course load wasn't enough to require living on campus, but a graduate in psychology was.
Right.
Whatever. That happened, and then we broke up. Well, when she moved out, I needed help with the rent. Tom was living at home. Tom moved in. And we had very small beds with a
Yep.
nightstand in between.
Yep.
And I was drinking a lot, and I'm pretty sure that rule came around just so that I didn't burn us up in our beds at night.
I see. I didn't know that. I thought it was just like so the bedroom didn't stink.
Hey, man, it was a byproduct. It was also all our clothes were in there, so I
Yeah.
guess, it
So
was a good thing.
Yeah, so one night, that we had both been overserved, and we had a long, rough night. I woke up in the morning, and God, I wanted a cigarette so bad, and I was like, oh God, but I also didn't want to move, and I was like, Dave,
I remember this.
what do you think about suspending? Do you want to like suspend the no smoking in the bedroom rule? And then Dave just rolls over and goes, more than anything in the world, Tom. And I laughed so hard I cried. I was in a delicate state at the time. But yeah, just to illustrate, that was a line from Anchorman.
I forgot about
Rick
that.
Tamlin. More than anything in the world, Ron.
World Rod. Anything in the world, Rod. Oh my God! Yeah.
You
I
want to know
remember
what love
doing
is?
that.
Yeah, it was part of our vocabulary, is the point of this ridiculous story. It was part of the vocabulary because it was on constantly.
Constantly. How many times did we wake up to that goddamn DVD menu on repeat, just going saying the same fucking lines over and over again?
Yeah, and like you didn't have the strength to get up and just shut the TV off because like that's how hard
It
we
was in
went
your
the night
dreams.
before.
It would work its way into your goddamn dreams. So yeah, that movie's more than just like a favorite film, That's like a desert island film.
It's an institution.
And then they went and made a sequel to it. So I was skeptical to begin with, right? Because, hold on for a second. I'm having technical goddamn difficulties here. The
Ugh,
whole world's fucking turning against me, Tom.
shit.
Everything stopped working. Fucking shit's falling on me.
What happened?
Oh my god.
Did you drop? Did you drop your
I'm in a-
cherry or something?
I'm in a glass cage of emotion.
I can't understand you.
Stop speaking Spanish. I can't. He used to get so mad at me when I would say that to you. You would be in the middle of a long story or some shit. I'd be like, what? You know I don't speak Spanish.
Fucking hell.
Fuck you, Dave. Are you even listening? Yeah, I'm listening. I'm not mad. I'm impressed. We started saying that about everything.
You pooped in the refrigerator.
You ate a whole wheel of cheese? But years later, they released Anchorman 2. And this is after, like, Will Ferrell he started doing television appearances on shows as Ron Burgundy. You know, it got to be a shtick at that point. And I just went into watching that with a real puss on. Because I just didn't see how they could live up to anything like the first one was. So I just kind of immediately think I just started disliking all the choices they made as I saw them in front of me. You know, and it's like, really, you're going to take it there? This is where we're going with the fuck... Like, or that's just, you know, that's not our guys, you know, or whatever, you know, like, and like, I didn't know what I wanted out of a sequel to Anchorman because I don't think I wanted a sequel to Anchorman ever.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that I could have been not disappointed by it at the onset, right? Have you seen it? Have you seen the second one?
I saw it, and I kind of went into that with like polar opposite in terms of expectations. I like the first one was so.
Oh, you thought it was going to be good?
Well, the first one was so funny, and I watched it like right before I went to see the second one. I'm like, oh man, the first one was great. I'm just gonna get more. And it was one of those things you said earlier. The secret would be like do it the same but different, but you don't know what to keep the same and what to make different. And for that movie, I wanted like everything the same. Just give me the same movie, but different jokes, right?
Yeah, more jokes, right?
And
yeah.
it was, they made so much of it different, and I hated it. But I went into it thinking like, this is going to be great. And it just, it was terrible. I couldn't stand it.
You know, my wife hated it too. We saw it together. I bought it. I just straight up bought the thing when it came out. We didn't go to the theater and see it, but I bought
You're
it.
a masochist.
Yeah, I know. And we watched it and hated it, and we never really watched it again. Well, a few days ago, when I started thinking about comedy sequels, I put it in, and we actually watched the entire thing, and we laughed. We laughed quite a bit.
No.
Like, it's nowhere near as good
How
as the
dare
first
you.
one. It's nowhere near as good as the first one. And it has problems. And it has some flat spots. But if you just trying to appreciate the absurdity of it, it was really pretty funny. The kid who plays Ron Burgundy's son is awful. He is the worst. I'm sorry to whoever's kid, or if it's Will Ferrell's son, I don't know. He's a terrible actor. He's a horrible fucking actor, which made every scene with him excruciating. But there is some funny shit in there, man. Like, and a lot of it is they're doing send-ups of things from the 70s that a lot of people don't really remember, that I barely remember, you know, because I wasn't around, but we saw that shit the second time around. But, you know, they made a lot of movies in the 70s where this average guy suddenly was struck with a disability and he had to overcome it, you know, with his spirit and shit. And, you know, a lot of them were these TV movies, right? And that's what they were doing when he goes blind. But it was too much. Like they tried to jam too much shit into.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I remember that scene, that part, and going like, "Why the fuck is he blind?" You know,
Yeah.
not being a child of the '70s, I wouldn't get that joke, and it's only just now that I'm realizing that was a send up of something that used to happen. Because when I saw it, it went right over my head. I was just like,
Yeah, like this
why
is so fucking
why is he
stupid and out
fucking
of left
blind?
field. Why are they doing this? Yeah, and the same thing with the shark, the whole subplot with the shark. In the 70s, there was this weird glut of movies pairing actors with animals, you know, and like the most
Okay.
famous is like Clint Eastwood did. I think
Every which way but loose.
yeah, two of those with a monkey, you know, like and
Right
again,
Turn,
a lot
Clyde.
of this and a lot of this you saw on TV more than anywhere else.
That's where I saw that.
That's what that was supposed to be, you know. But there was just they try and man, if you bought Anchorman back in the day on DVD and you happened to get like the special edition one, it came with another disc with an entire additional movie on it called Wake Up Ron Burgundy. Okay? They shot so much footage from an original script with a completely different plot that they completely abandoned, that they had enough to cobble it together with footage from Anchorman, the finished Anchorman, and make a whole nother movie.
Wait, is this Anchorman 1 or Anchorman 2?
This is Anchorman 1. This is Anchorman 1. There was a whole subplot with like a Weather Underground type of terrorist organization that was, you know, with Patty Hearst style overtones, Robin Banks and shit. And it was, what's the woman's name from Saturday Night Live?
Nah, which one?
She was back in the day when the woman from
Sherry
Parks and Rec was on
O'Terry,
it.
Molly Shannon, Amy
No.
Poehler,
Later. Yeah, Amy Poehler era.
Kristen
Bettina
Wiig,
Fey. No, the other one. Maya Rudolph.
Maya Rudolph.
Fucking Maya Rudolph was like the leader, the female leader, and she has like this huge afro and shit. And the guy from Superbad, like not Matheson, the other bad guy, it was this whole other plot. And you find out that they were all in Vietnam together, and Brick was their lieutenant until he got hit with a fucking landmine, which was one of the that was the only real funny part in it. But my point is that the original was a complete fucking accident that came about because when they went to go edit together what they thought they were making, it came out so bad that they had to completely redo the film. And what we got was a pure absolute accident out of necessity. The jokes they decided to keep, everything about it. The whole tone would have been completely different if they had gone with the original script.
Interesting. I've never seen that movie. The Wake Up Ron Burgundy.
I have to show it to you. It's pretty fun. It's really weird to see that much additional footage. I'm talking like it's 40 minutes maybe. It's
Jeez.
crazy. But yeah, so how do you make a sequel to that? How do you make a sequel to an accident? And you know, even with more studio style movies that hit hard, the sequels are pretty bad. One of them that comes to mind is Horrible Bosses.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I saw Horrible Bosses 1. I did not see Horrible Bosses 2.
I'm a huge Always Sunny fan. I'm a big Charlie Day fan.
Oh, Charlie
I
Day's
love Jason Bateman. Sudeikis is pretty fucking funny. Horrible Bosses was great.
Oh, it's funny as hell.
It was funny as hell. The Jennifer Aniston stuff might be the funniest parts, but that's a funny movie with a lot of great actors in it. And Kevin Spacey. We always have to bring it up. It's like a disclaimer.
He who shall not be named.
Horrible Bosses 2 was so bad. Like, I don't even know how you could have those three actors together again doing shtick and having it be that bad, but it really, really was. And more in the vein of Anchorman, they made a Zoolander sequel. Did you know this? Do you remember this?
No.
Oh my God. Like, if I think of movies that everyone had on their shelf in college, which could be a completely different episode, by the way,
Yeah, it could.
two of those movies would definitely be Zoolander and Anchorman. And it was funny that Ben Stiller would be a male model in that movie, but like on the verge of being like believable in a comedy, right? And then these old men try to do it. The same thing again, like 15 years later. And
That was
the whole movie
that much later?
I'm pretty sure, man. I'm going to look it up,
Jeez.
not to be a jerk off, but okay, so the original Zoolander came out in '01. All right. Zoolander
Okay.
2 came out in 2016.
Oh, yeah, 15 years.
15 years later.
Holy.
I was spitballing that, but yeah, it was 15 years later. I mean, there's a lot of aging going on in that part of a man's life because he had to be in his early 40s when they did Zoolander. So, man, and it just comes off painful watching that movie, the sequel. It was so bad, and they tried to recycle so many jokes from the original, thinking that somehow that 15 years passing makes it okay to revisit the same jokes again. Man, it really didn't, because people have been watching the original Zoolander all this time. It's not like it's been 15 years for them, dude. You know? Like, it was so weird and so unnecessary.
Well, at least it wasn't 15 years later and set 6 years earlier than the original.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's
They didn't
another
have to
episode.
de-age anyone. They didn't have to de-age anybody. But another one that struck me the exact same way was Dumb and Dumber, the sequel to Dumb and Dumber, the
Oh,
second
yeah.
sequel, the
Dude.
second sequel to Dumb and Dumber.
I actively avoided both of those. Like Dumb and Dumber is great. It's hilarious, and it's one of those ones I grew up with. You know, it's like infinitely quotable. I've tried to master the most annoying sound in the world to try to do it myself.
Look.
You know, I'm in it. But then everything, I saw the trailer for that. I'm always like, and I thought to myself, this cannot and will not be good. I'm not going to waste my time.
I respect you for that, and I did waste my time because I don't know. Maybe I am a masochist. I don't know.
You are.
Maybe,
I'm sorry.
I'm a
man.
completionist.
Yeah, that's
I have to
masochist
see
by
it to
another
make fun
name.
of it. I can't make fun of it if I didn't see it. Damn it!
Try
And I
it
knew-
sometime. You might surprise yourself, you freak.
Well, that was pretty fucking painful. I never saw the prequel. I did avoid that. For anyone who doesn't know, Dumb and Dumber had a prequel, I think, called When Harry Met Lloyd. I think it was called Dumb and Dumber, or
man.
Dumb and it was like some straight to video shit. No one from the original was in it, and I never saw that. But you can't. It's hard to really explain to anyone who didn't live through it as a kid how popular Jim Carrey was that year. Like, within the span of, I think, just a little over a 12-month period, he had Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber come out.
Oh God.
All,
Yeah, he
all
was
three
everywhere.
of those movies. Those movies made so much fucking money and were so popular across, like, kids loved them. Parents watched them with their kids. Teenagers loved them. Like,
College dudes.
and plus, like, people loved him from In Living Color. So, you know, there was that too. Like, he was so popular. And Dumb and Dumber was the most adult of them. And it came last because that was a Farrelly Brothers one, right?
Yeah. And dude, Liar Liar came out pretty
Yeah,
close.
that was later. That
Pretty
was after
close.
that.
It was
But
pretty
Dumb
cl-
and
it was
Dumber
close
was the
enough.
raunchy one. Dumb and Dumber was the first raunchy one he did, and it's the most not like kid friendly of that trio. And man, like I remember teenagers and 12 and that was like 13, 14 years old. You were going to throw up watching that movie. You were going to laugh so fucking hard.
Oh, it was great.
It was just so unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. And then they went and did something about Mary. And that
Oh God,
was
that
huge.
that was enormous.
Monstrous. But Dumb and Dumber was so... It's still funny. I watched it again not too long ago after years of not watching it because I saw it too many fucking times. And it's still hilarious.
That's
The
another
dumb
one.
jokes are still funny. The smart jokes are still funny. It's just great.
That's
It's just
another
great.
one that you could quote in your sleep.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
Oh, yeah.
the amount of times that I've been like complaining about something, right? Like I'm dealing with this, and before I even know it, I'm going, our pets' heads are falling off.
Its heads are falling off.
God, it's so stupid, but it was great.
And like the big gulp line, like I've done that with so many people in real life, like in an awkward moment. Well, see you later. Like it's just, and if you know, you know. Like that's the best part about comedies too, because there's these little, they're like everyday throwaway lines. You know, they're not punchlines or anything. They're not jokes, but they're just these little throwaway lines that in context are so fucking funny that just repeating it brings up the whole scene for people who know.
Yeah.
And they fit in normal conversations all the time, like that one.
More than
You
anything
know?
in the world, Tom.
More than anything in the world, Tom. And just, you don't have to do the full inflection, just a little bit of it. It's just enough. And just to make your buddy crack in public if you can, you know?
That's the goal.
But you can't do that on purpose. I don't think you can make shit like that on purpose. I think you can make a funny comedy on purpose, but I don't think you can purposely make a comedy people are going to watch over and over and work into their fabric of their lives on purpose. I think that kind of shit is an accident.
Yeah,
a happy
you're not
accident.
you're not writing a script thinking like this is going to be the line people repeat 10 years from now. Yeah, you can't
No one can do that. And you know what I think kind of might maybe prove it a little bit is that movies like that, rewatchable comedies, come from every level of filmmaking. Think about Grandma's Boy.
Oh God.
That was a no-budget fucking Adam Sandler made movie before he was making movies. Like that was one of the early Happy Madison productions that didn't have Adam Sandler in it, right?
Yeah, and you didn't see that in the theater. It was like somebody had it on DVD and they're like, "Yo, you got to watch this."
Never fucking heard of the fucking thing. Never. Exact. That's how I heard about it. You showed it to me in your girlfriend's basement.
Oh, yeah, that's how you saw it?
I
Yeah.
never saw that before. You showed it to me I would never have watched that movie based on sight.
That girlfriend is now my wife. She'd be happy
Yeah.
to know that that's how you saw that movie.
Well, the girlfriend I had at the time is now my wife. So
Yeah.
we all watched it together and laughed really fucking
That
hard,
movie's
man.
great.
That movie got me from the first time I watched it. We bought it. That became one of our comfort comedies. Like Linny and my wife and I, we watch Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh God,
Is one
yeah.
of our comfort movies.
That's a good
we
one.
We will watch. We watch Get Him to the Greek too, which is like kind of a weird quasi sequel to that.
Russell
we love
Brand.
that movie. Yeah, like I know he's a nut now, but he's fucking funny in that movie. And that, you know what? That's a good one. That's a good one to bring up because if I have the special edition of that one, the Blu-ray of that, and you can watch it with the extended and deleted scenes edited back into the movie, and it is
Which one?
tonally Get Him to the Greek.
Okay.
It is tonally a completely different movie with the shit added back in because Russell Brand's character Aldous Snow is so much meaner to Jonah Hill's character, who's like kind of a innocent, wet behind the ears record producer, given the impossible task of getting the drug-addled Aldous Snow to a concert on time in LA from London, right? Well, in the cut that you get, even in the extended cut, you know, there's a sweet kind of relationship builds between them throughout the movie, right? And instead of being just this, Aldous Snow is more of a sympathetic character for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, if you've seen it, you know, whatever. But with all the stuff added back in, every scene goes a little too long, and he ends up doing something that's kind of just really mean, just deeply mean-spirited, if that makes sense. And it ends up changing that build-up to the end, where so much so that the end doesn't really make sense anymore.
I guess that's why they cut it.
Yeah, and it just shows that how important editing must be to a comedy. Like, not just getting the beats right, but, man, knowing when a scene needs to stop is so important.
I don't know the exact number, but, and this is like way off topic, but I have kids, man. I've seen this movie a lot. But Aladdin, right? You have
the original, the old
Disney.
Robin Williams one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm just making sure, because there's that Will Smith one. I'm making sure you're not insane and showing that to your children.
I forgot about that. I haven't seen that. I haven't been brave enough to try. But yeah, Aladdin, the original.
Okay.
Robin Williams was like comic legend, right? And a lot of the strength of his bit was improv. He was like just this fucking conduit for insanity that would come pouring out of his mouth, right? And so most of the lines for the genie were improv. And I read something that said like just the amount of like material they had from him.
Audio.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just voice work.
I can imagine.
Just going nuts with all these different references was astonishing. They were like, how do we whittle this down to like what is going to stay in the movie, and let alone like what these guys can draw, because you have a movie about a genie that can do anything. He can turn himself into, so like he's making all those dumb references, and as he's saying them, he's turning into whoever he's doing an impression of, right? And they just had like piles of stuff to work with. But like that's got to be, like, to your point, the challenge of editing a comedy is because you have these comedians that are just like lightning rods for whatever comes to mind. And so you just put it all on film. You put it all on tape, whatever you can get, and you got to find the best bits to make your movie. And the best bits aren't always the funniest bits. They're the they're the ones that make it a good movie, though. What a titanic job that's got to be to try to edit a pile of material into a good comedy.
Yeah, and the more you have, the harder it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, again, why it's so difficult to make a comedy. Like, I'm not, like, to be clear, we're not trying to shit on the people who made these movies. It's a really hard thing to do. If anything, maybe we're shitting on like the studios who decided there needs to be a Zoolander 2. Like, I don't know if Ben Stiller, like, really 15 years later wanted to make that one reeks of like they threw money at people to make a fucking movie, right? So it's a monumental task to try to do that on purpose as a follow-up to a beloved comedy.
Yeah.
Now, like, what how do you feel about Ghostbusters 2? Like, Ghostbusters isn't, I wouldn't call a straight comedy, but it's a comedy. Like, it's half of a comedy.
Yeah. The Ghostbusters, number one, Ghostbusters, the first one, I love. It's great.
Yeah, classic. It's a classic.
It's, well, and just to, here's my thing. Ghostbusters is one of those things. If I were to explain Ghostbusters to you in the abstract, you know, having
the concept, you mean? Like,
yeah,
legit?
Like having, like, let's pretend for a moment you've never seen Ghostbusters or heard of it. It doesn't exist in your world, and I'm trying to tell you about that movie. And
like that Key and Peele sketch when he pitches Gremlins 2.
Gremlins 2, yeah, sure,
It's the greatest shit in the world.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, you're right.
To pitch Ghostbusters in the abstract is insane, but like they made it. Thank God they did. It's great. It works. So now you have to try to follow up this thing that really should never have been made in the first place.
Again, a lot of things in the original Ghostbusters were fucking accidents.
Right.
Eddie
Improv.
Murphy was supposed to be Winston
What?
originally. That was the
What?
plan. He was going to be an equal, quarter of the cast, and he was going to be Winston. And then originally,
Man, why don't we
was
have
supposed
that?
to. Belushi was supposed to be in the movie. We don't have it because he went and did Beverly Hills Cop. Belushi was supposed to be in the movie before he died when Aykroyd was first trying to get it made. I think he played Venkman. I think that was his. I don't remember exactly, but everything got changed around a lot.
I can't even fathom Ghostbusters without Bill Murray.
Right.
It doesn't. It doesn't exist.
So many things had to happen, and also Harold Ramis, not really an actor. He's even
a writer.
then he was more behind the scenes, writing and directing. So all kinds of shit happened, accidentally and by circumstance, that contributed to that film being what it became. And yeah, and especially by the time the second one came out, Ghostbusters was a brand.
It was a phenomenon.
Man. Like, I had a Ghostbusters backpack. I had the fucking little firehouse.
You had the firehouse?
I had the firehouse.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, we couldn't afford the
loved
firehouse.
Ghostbusters. Like, that's all I got for Christmas one year. I got the firehouse, and I got Ecto-1. And I was an only child.
You prick.
So I didn't have...
Why didn't we meet sooner?
There weren't three of us. I'm sorry.
God damn it. I had one Venkman toy from the show where, like, if you pushed like a button on his pants, like his pants fell down.
Oh, that was a lame one.
Yeah.
I remember I had one where he was like in a cream-colored suit, and if you sprayed him with hot water, he turned colors.
No. I'm conflating two things. I had a Police Academy toy that the pants fell down.
They had Police Academy toys?
Yeah, man, they were in the bargain bin.
I don't remember that.
They were in the bargain bin, so that's why I had them.
Wow.
I had a Venkman toy where like you like squeeze you'd squeeze his arm and his mouth. Yeah, his mouth would open real wide. I
remember that one. I remember that series.
But yeah, like that movie was just gold, and to try to explain to someone, which it's a wonder that movie even got made, because those movies cost a lot of money to make, and whoever's paying for them expects a return on their investment. And if I'm the guy sitting across the table waiting for this $1 million movie pitch that's going to make me my $1 million back, I don't know that I make that movie. It sounds goofy as shit. Now the
only counter argument
hindsight's 2020.
The counter argument at the time was Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, like, Zemeckis.
But what had they done up to that point?
There was a lot of talent. Well, I mean, they were very popular. Aykroyd and Murray were Murray was coming off Stripes, and Aykroyd, I think, had just done Great Outdoors with John Candy, right? Wasn't that before that? I'm pretty sure it was. Aykroyd was in a bunch of stuff after his SNL run. Plus, they were all real popular on SNL.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they were names. I think they were draws, But yeah, that just filming in New York too probably had to added to the expense.
Yeah, the center of the cinema universe.
Yeah, it's just wild that got made. And then the cartoon too. After that, between the movies, became huge. So much so that in the sequel, they tried to do things to tip the cap to the cartoon. Like, they made Janine's hair like it was in the cartoon.
Yeah, they did.
Like, weird shit like that. But at the time, when Ghostbusters 2 came out, we were children, and I didn't know any better. I loved it.
Oh, it was great.
It was just more Ghostbusters. I was fucking thrilled. They had new dark gray suits. This is fucking awesome,
Yes, Vigo.
It was funny to me as a kid, but now as an adult watching them, the humor is completely different. in the second one.
Well, it's kind of the opposite. It's like this inverse, graph. You look at the Ghostbusters 2 is the movie you love as a child and kind of don't appreciate as much as an adult. Whereas the first one, you're like, oh, this is pretty good as a child. And then you see it as an adult and you realize all the jokes that you didn't get. And it's
the older you get, the more and more jokes you get.
Ghostbusters 1 gets better and better and better. And Ghostbusters 2 gets kind of worse and worse and worse as you go on.
Yeah, it's very much a studio film, too. I mean, Jesus Christ, it ends with a walking Statue of Liberty being controlled by a Nintendo gamepad.
Which, when I was 8, was like, yes! That's exactly what I would do in that situation.
It was rad.
I have one of those Nintendo controllers.
Yeah, it was gimmicky. It was tropey. And a lot of people now don't like it, but I don't care. It was awesome when it came out.
It was great.
We loved it. But again, another lightning in the bottle, comedy classic. Still can't make a good sequel to it. I don't think we even have to really address it, but
oh God, don't go there.
The remake was atrocious. It shouldn't even be
Lady
a
Busters?
thing. Yeah, Lady Busters. I haven't disliked a movie that much in a really, really long time.
Yeah, and listen, just fair disclosure, we're not those dudes that are gonna go like, women, I'm not watching that. No, let me start by saying, Kate McKinnon, hilarious. I love Kate McKinnon. She's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, she's pretty fucking
fantastic.
Funny,
yeah. Her work on SNL is some of the funny. It's like of the only funny shit on SNL.
She was in that movie with that all-female cast about a bachelorette party where they murder somebody. Oh, what the fuck was it? Scarlett Johansson was in it and shit. It was a great cast.
Oh, shit, I didn't see that.
She was wonderful in it. She played an Australian. She played like the Australian friend who flew in for the wedding. I'll look it up later and add it and tell everybody. But it was hilarious. She was great in that too. Like, she's done things in movies. Like, it's not that she couldn't handle being in a movie.
Kate McKinnon is funny as hell. Kristen Wiig is funny as hell.
Yeah, I can take her or leave her sometimes, but I've liked her in things. I hated her in Anchorman 2. I hated her in that.
Yeah.
I could have killed her in that.
Well, that's because we hated Anchorman 2.
I liked Bridesmaids. Bridesmaids was a funny fucking movie.
Bridesmaids is fucking great.
She was great in Paul, which is an underrated comedy.
Oh, I haven't seen Paul.
Oh, you got to see Paul. Not enough people have seen Paul. If you like Simon Pegg and
I love Simon Pegg.
Frost, what's his name?
Nick Frost.
They're fantastic in that. And Seth Rogen's voice is in it, but he isn't, so that's cool. I really like him as the alien voice. Like, it's great. I've seen that a lot. Like, and she's funny as hell. Kristen Wiig's when she's more understated, she's funnier. When she's more she's not as good. But Lady Busters,
Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, again.
Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids.
She was fucking hilarious.
Funny as hell.
She was like Will Ferrell.
Just the once look away. Look away.
Yeah. I saw her in that movie she did with Sandra Bullock, The Heat or whatever. I think that's what it was called, The Heat. They were cops.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that.
She was actually she was very good in that too. There's been a couple things I couldn't stand her in. That one where I think it's actually called Identity Thief with Bateman.
Identity theft.
I couldn't.
Yeah,
that one I just couldn't.
Well, either way,
but that the whole movie,
you have a strong cast. Like these people have like a pedigree, but like that movie is dreadful.
I watched it.
Lady Busters, that is.
Yeah, I saw the whole fucking thing. I watched the whole thing again to give it a fair shake. And no, it's fucking terrible. It's a terrible movie in every way, shape, and form. The story, the jokes, the setup, the look of it, it's fucking terrible. And the idea that it's a remake of Ghostbusters, go fuck yourself. Like it's whatever. But the sequel, and there's another one coming.
Afterlife.
At first blush, like I watched it once and I didn't hate it. But all right, man, like they're trying to treat Ghostbusters like it's a Marvel movie, like it's part of some big. It was a comedy, man. Like they made it so serious and so emotional, and then just put Paul Rudd in it, you know, and then seeing the photos from the upcoming second new age sequel.
What's it called
and the
again?
trailer, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
my frozen balls or something. I don't know. Everything's frozen, I know. It was so sad to see. They got like all the surviving members of the original cast back for this one. I guess they had enough money.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to see these old men and Janine suited up in their Ghostbusters garb. They look so tired and old. And I don't know how much they're in it. I doubt it's much. But whether they're in it a lot or whether they're in it a little, it's stupid and sad. And it just stop. You know, just stop, man. Like, do people want this? Are there young fans of the Ghostbusters that want it to be like Marvel-y and think there's enough to that universe where guys are with proton packs? Like, it's nonsense.
Dude,
like,
you know what it is? It's
What?
it's bankable, man. It's a franchise. It's
yeah, I know. I guess.
it's
Yeah.
something.
I always forget about that money stuff.
Yeah, the money stuff is big. Okay, it's something that they know, a known quantity versus the prospect of launching installment one of a new franchise. You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna go with the thing that you know, and the thing with and you can play all that nostalgia shit too. You know the things that are gonna hit people in their heartstrings and make them want to go see a new movie to relive fond memories of the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if it half works, it's worth the payoff for them, I guess, in the end. It's just sad. You're
no,
a
I
big
don't-
fan of Blues Brothers, aren't you?
Oh, yes. The first Blues Brothers movie is fucking wonderful. And
How
like
do you
for
feel
people
about when
who
you think...
for people who don't know, it's goddamn ridiculous. You know, man gets out of
it's
jail.
absurd.
Man gets out of jail. Man restarts a blues band with his eccentric brother called the Blues Brothers. They're getting the band back together so they can pay the taxes for the orphanage that they grew up in so it doesn't close down. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was the shtick at the time.
It doesn't make any sense, but like, fuck, it works, man. It's awesome, and it's great. And you know, it's funny too because that movie is totally like a labor of love from the late great John Belushi, who used to have like at the time he had a pretty bad drug problem, and really was into like heavy metal. You know, he would just like do a bag of coke and headbang to like this crazy 80s metal music that he loved. And then Dan Aykroyd was like, hey man, have you ever heard the blues? And he's like, the blues, what's that? And he like was responsible for like this musical awakening for John Belushi. And it's like, this shit's awesome. And he like, before starting that movie, had been converted from like a metalhead to a blues fan. He was totally
70s metal.
Yeah, like
70s
just
metal. It's different. I didn't want people
different.
to think that Belushi was, banging out the Poison or something.
no. I mean, it was probably like Black Sabbath, and you know what I'm saying.
Lemmy. Some
Yeah,
Lemmy.
Motorhead. But he had this like this cultural and musical awakening to the blues, and they somehow put that on film, and it worked.
I didn't know that.
It somehow it worked. Yeah, he was just not into that scene at all. He said I like my music hard and fast. And then Dan Aykroyd was like, well, try this. And then John Belushi was in it. And that's why. And it comes across on the screen when they're on stage. Like John Belushi fucking loves that music. And it's almost like that scene in the church. He's like, when James Brown is, do you see the light? And John Belushi's like, yes. That's kind of like a little mini take on his musical awakening.
So, how do you feel about Blues Brothers 2000?
I don't want to talk about it. I'm sorry, man. I know we're here to talk about this shit. I don't like.
Can you even look
God,
at the
it makes
poster
my
for that?
skin crawl. That movie.
The poster for that's even rough.
Ghostbusters should never have worked in the first place, but did. Plus, you have the added caveat of trying to replace your lead actor who died tragically. You have to replace that man. And they tried, and it doesn't work. It's not good.
Ditto. They did the same thing with Caddyshack II. No one except Chevy Chase came back from the original, so they had nothing, and they replaced Bill Murray with fucking Dan Aykroyd doing a weird Bill Murray impression. That's up there. That's one of the worst comedy sequels of all time.
Oh yeah, it's
sure.
bad. And Dan Aykroyd was like kind of bankable at that point. Why wouldn't you just let Dan Aykroyd be himself?
Maybe they did, and that's what he came up with. Maybe he didn't really want to do it. Like, I don't know. Maybe he just hated Chevy Chase, just like everyone else. I have no idea. Coming to America 2, Coming to America. Wow. Talk about a pile of rancid dog shit.
Yeah, see, I never saw that one.
I watched that with our buddy Kevin and my wife. We were
What did he
really
think?
expecting. Oh, he hated it. We all hated it. We were expecting good things, I think, because we had just seen Dolomite Is My Name, which Eddie Murphy did, I think was a Netflix original.
I heard that was good.
It was fan-fucking-tastic. You
Oh,
were
yeah?
like, this is Eddie Murphy. Like this, he's cussing, he's saying funny shit. He's, it was a biopic, kind of, about the guy, the actor, and the dude who made those Dolomite movies, those weird exploitation movies in the 70s and shit. That's a crazy story behind it. It was hilarious. It was great.
I'll have to watch
So we were
that.
like, and then it was like, that was a hit. And then it's like, hey, he's making a sequel to Coming to America, and he's getting everyone who's alive back. And it was like, oh, well, maybe he's on a roll. And then we found out it's going to be rated PG-13. And it was,
Yeah.
what? And then come to find out, about 8 minutes take place in New York, where the original one was set entirely in Queens.
Where's the rest of it take place?
In Zamunda, the fake African country.
Oh my.
All of it almost takes place there. It was just a huge fucking miss. And he's coming out with a Beverly Hills Cop 4
No.
soon. Yeah. I haven't heard what it's going to be rated yet, so I have no idea. If it's not rated R, I think I'm skipping it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not even going to give it a chance.
Listen, man.
The third one was so bad.
Like try it my way a little
Yeah?
bit. Yeah.
Should I?
Yeah. Man, here, you don't know how good I have it.
Okay.
I have you to tell me if it's bad or good. To tell me if I should waste my time or not. Like I don't know if you realize what a luxury you are at this point in my life.
All right, but at the same time, I sift through the garbage. Sometimes I find gems. Sometimes I come up with good shit.
No, you
every
do.
Once in a while.
You do. I'll give you that. But I mean, like, you got to sift through a lot of shit.
Yeah,
A
I watch
lot.
a lot of bad fucking movies. I've watched. Yeah, I watch a lot of bad
And
shit.
I
I've
don't.
gotten really good at in the streaming era. It's really good. I've gotten good at turning them off at the 20-minute mark, so I don't torture myself too bad.
Oh man, I'm proud of you, Dave. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. But sometimes I just sit there and just
Waiting for it to get better, and it doesn't.
Well, I think we just kind of figured out that the best comedies, the most rewatchable comedies, are most of the time accidental in what makes them beloved. And when that happens, because they're so beloved, studios tend to want to, and the actors and everyone involved tend to want to cash in on that and see if they can wring a sequel out of it. Because once in a blue moon, they're kind of okay and make a lot of money. And that's why we get bad sequels to great comedies.
Yeah, you
that
know.
sound about right?
Yeah, it conjures images of like the dude in the suit who's controlling all the money, saying to the talent like, "Yeah, just do the thing, that we all
Do it
loved.
again.
Just
Yeah,
do the
do
thing."
it again.
But
Yeah,
no one,
make the people laugh.
but no one really knows what the thing is until years after that movie came out. You know, like could you pinpoint what made Ghostbusters so great right after you saw it?
No, I don't even know if I can pinpoint it now.
Yeah, and we could talk about it at length now. We might get close, but that's the timeline these guys are working on. Like a movie comes out, movie blows up, movie makes a shitload of money, and they're like, okay, do it again. We got to do that again.
Yeah, and it's do what again? And they get
Yeah,
everyone in
do
the same
what again?
costumes and, the same accents with the same names or whatever the fuck it is. And then we'll see, where they dig a script up from. Who knows? Some repurposed shit from something else maybe. But it's hard enough to make a good sequel to any movie. But doing it for a comedy is almost an impossible task. As we ran down the list of very few good comedy sequels, and please, if anyone out there can think of one that isn't on that list, let us know somewhere in the comments somewhere, and maybe we'll revisit this someday. But you couldn't think of nothing. Did I miss anything that you could think of?
Listen, if someone's going to think of it, it's going to be you.
Maybe, but fuck, man.
Yeah.
Some of the movies that would be on someone's good comedy sequel list were on my bad one, and that's a different matter because no other genre is more dependent on taste. Like you said,
That is true.
comedies are subjective, highly subjective, so that's what the internet's for. You can go fucking argue about that out there. Have fun. But I think we figured that out. So good for us, man. Good for us. Yay.
Look at us.
Look at us,
Look
man.
at us.
We are laughing. We are laughing. We've been going to the same party for 20 years, and in no way is that depressing. That whole fucking movie, man.
We could do the whole thing.
We could get close. I wonder how close we could get.
I think it would be depressing how close we could get.
I think we need to get a bottle of scotch and some pepper, and we have to figure this out and try it.
Yeah, 3 fingers of Glenlivet, some pepper, and some cheese. Case in point.
Oh my God. And anyone out there, if you have not seen Anchorman for whatever reason, watch that's one of those comedies where you should watch the extended version. Watch the longer cut of that one. They didn't add much, but they added some good shit. They added the cat poo scene.
Oh, that's
not
the
in
extended cut?
Yeah. You will eat the cat poo. I eat dog shit. I don't care.
You're gonna eat cat poo.
Yeah, they added that. That's the extended cut. That alone is reason to watch the extended cut, but nothing is fluff. They really kind of kept it tight because if not, they would have been dipping into the other plot that they had to excise.
I didn't even know about that, man.
Yeah, dude, I'll have to do that too. We'll have to show you Wake Up Ron Burgundy. Wild stuff. All right, awesome.
You got mental problems. Yeah, you got mental problems, man.